I read several Walt Disney's books, and he was like the visionary, and his brother Roy Disney was more like the bean counter. So Walt would have all these ideas, and he had his who. He had somebody to Roy could make it happen. He could find the people and pay for the people. So that's why that's kind of my first experience of somebody that was really good finding a who.
Hello, I'm John Brink, and we are podcasting on the Brink from downtown Prince George, British Columbia, Canada. And for all those people watching us from around the world saying, we know where Canada is, and we know where British Columbia is on the west coast. Where is Prince George? Well, if you look at Vancouver, everybody knows Vancouver. We are about 500 miles north of Vancouver, or for our European friends, that's about 800 kilometers. It puts it in the middle, in the center of British Columbia, north to south, east to west. And today we have a very, very interesting podcast and a very, very interesting guest. His name is Dr. Jeff Anzalone, and he is a periodontist, which is a dentist specialty, and he will tell us a little bit more about it, that specializes, I'm trying to get this right, in gum disease or in quality and good teeth and all the things surrounding it, bones and all those things. But that's not really the interesting part. It's also interesting, obviously, but even more interesting is that Dr. Jeff, or I can call you Jeff, Doc?
Absolutely, yep.
Yeah, so Jeff made a fairly major change in his life when he got an injury on one of his hands and changed direction. And he became interested in commercial real estate, in particular as it applied to doctors, and has been very, very active in that area as a specialty, and became a very, very successful entrepreneur in those areas. So, welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Looking forward to it. I wish we had the same weather down in Louisiana as you have there, but I can only dream of it.
So we are now at about 30, it's going to be 34, 35 degrees. That probably is close to where you are today. Normally we are in the seasons, but so it's unusually warm here. So Jeff, tell us a bit about your past. You became, for a career, you went to the university and then became a doctorate in dentistry with a specialty in periodontics. And so tell us about that. And then the other part, to your student loans exceeded $300,000. So you had to, it's very expensive to get there. And then from there on in, it takes a long time to pay off your student loans and to build a career. Tell us about that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going back and forth between being a physician and a dentist growing up. And I noticed one thing when I was playing ball as a kid, the kids on my team, their dads were dentists, they were always the ones coaching, or there was always the ones that practiced and all that. The ones that their dads were physicians, they were always working. And that always was in the back of my mind as I was going through high school and then eventually college. And I've got some relatives and friends of mine that their dads were dentists. So I became a little more interested in that. Went to dental school. But, you go to dental school, you go to medical school, kind of like if you go from college to professional athlete, you know that you're going to make good money. When I say good money, anywhere from, $200,000 to, the sky's the limit, but, $200,000-$300,000. So you're like, okay, I'm going to go into debt. Yeah, a good living. I'm going to go into debt, but it's not like I'm going to get all this debt and make $25,000 a year. I'm going to have a good income. So that really didn't worry me too much. I was always knew that I wanted to work for myself. I had a lawn service when I started when I was 12. Got to the point where I was mowing like 40 yards a week. So I was making good money. I had my own business. I knew that I wanted to work for myself, not for anybody else. So I thought I was going to get out and, eventually have my own practice. So I went to dental
had kind of
school.
an entrepreneurial streak, right?
Yes.
Right from early
Now,
age. Yeah.
correct. Now my brother, on the other hand, is different. He wasn't like that, and now he works for. He's an engineer. He works for a group. He doesn't want to have his own business or practice. And that's fine. It's just to each his own.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after I got almost finished with dental school, I got interested in doing surgery. And so after I did 4 years of college, 4 years of dental school, I did a 1 year residency at the VA hospital down in Biloxi, Mississippi. That's when I got interested in surgery, extractions, and dental implants, that sort of thing. So then I went back and got my training as a periodontist as 3 more years. So I actually went to 12 years of school after high school. It's a lot of school. Racked up, like you said, a little over $300,000 in debt. And I'm from a small town in Louisiana, Monroe, Louisiana, and I wanted to come back here. My family, my friends are here. So I was talking to a group here to join their group because I wanted to learn from them and then eventually open my own. Well, unfortunately, 2 weeks before I finished my training, they had a falling out, and then they pulled the deal pretty much out from under me. And it was so tough because we'd already bought a house. We had a 2-month-old, $300,000 in student loan debt, and now I didn't have a job. I didn't have a clue how to start a practice. Nothing.
Did they cancel the deal, or what happened?
Yeah, they just said they're splitting up. They don't want to bring in somebody else. Right. The deal's off the table.
Have a nice day.
But looking back, it's actually the best thing that happened. But at that point, it was bad. It was very stressful.
Yeah.
So luckily, I connected with another dental specialist, and he said, "Look, something similar happened to me. Why don't you come rent space from me? You don't have to take out any more loans. You can use my equipment. We can share staff members, and I'll teach you the ropes." I was like, perfect. But I started from zero. I had no money coming in. Now, if you were to get out of training right now, you would have like a good salary.
Yeah.
But I had like zero. So when I got out,
was the other person that also a periodontist that you were able to work with then, or in Monroe?
No,
or?
He was an endodontist, root canal specialist.
Okay.
Yeah. So he taught me the ropes, and you're going to find this kind of funny, but I was raised in a household where, looking back on it, we had a very limited scarcity mindset. And probably people listening to this podcast can probably attest to this, where I constantly heard that things cost too much. We can't afford that. We can't go on this trip.
Yeah.
I had a great childhood. We didn't want for anything, but I heard that occasionally. Yeah. And I had friends that had money, and I could see the difference. Still, I mean, we're fine. We had everything we needed, but I thought that when you get money,
there was more.
You hold on to save it, and it was scarce.
Yeah.
Right? When this happened to me, it really set me back even further, and I was more like in survival mode. So I actually started mowing yards again as a periodontist. I mean, it was bad and very humbling, but I had to do what I had to do to pay our mortgage, to feed the family.
Exactly.
And so he was teaching me, for those 2 years I worked with him, not only was he teaching me how to build my practice, but I was also looking at it of how to eventually get out and run my own practice. And I still, to this day, I still write down on these legal pads. I'm always taking notes. So after 2 years, I looked up and I had written down enough notes, and I said, you know what? I bet you somebody else can benefit from this. So I figured out how to self-publish it, and I wrote my first book and I self-published it on Amazon, and it's basically call what they don't teach you in dental school, which is pretty much everything that's non-clinical. I mean, it's still selling today. It's very, very basic, but that was sort of my first experience of going through some trials and tribulations, and then going, hey, you know what? I can give back. I can help to other people, and I
Now
really enjoyed that.
that was quite a challenge, though. I see, Jeff, because I am a publisher or an author as well, and writing books is not easy. So I thought about it for a long time. I'm going to be 84 this year, and it took me till I was well into 5, 6 years ago that I wrote my first book, and then from there on in I've done another 3 or 4, and then it took me 20 years thinking about it, starting, and then I knew if I don't do it now, it will never happen. But it's not easy, So, and writing is maybe easy, but then the whole system around it. How does it work? How do you find? How do you publish? What should it look like? Should it be soft cover? What should be the font size? How do you market it? And on and on and on, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Not easy.
Yeah, I mean, back then they didn't have all the tools and AI and everything that makes it. Now they have a service to where they interview you like this, and they'll transcript and they'll do it for you, which is it's so easy to write a book now. But I'm looking over here on my shelf. One of the books that actually changed my thinking around all that is, I'm sure you've heard of it, is Who Not How. And that's what limits so many people, from doing things, because it took me like 3 years to start my YouTube channel because I was asking the wrong question. How do I start my channel? How do I edit the videos? How do I make the fun thumbnails? How do I do this? How do I do that? And the whole gist of the book is, don't ask how, just find a who to do it for you. And once you get somebody to do it for you, you can do whatever you want. All you got to have is the idea. And I've read some of Walt Disney.
I like that. If you have an opportunity to grab the book, yours and the other one, and then show it to us. If you
I'm looking over on my bookshelf. I'm not seeing it right now. I may have it in a little bit. I don't think I have a copy of my book, but yeah, it's called Who Not How. Darren Hardy.
We'll find it, and we'll put it. We'll find it on Amazon, and then we'll show it.
Yeah, and I read several Walt Disney's books, and he was like the visionary, and his brother Roy Disney was more like the bean counter. So Walt would have all these ideas, and he had his who. He had somebody Roy could make it happen. He could find the people and pay for the people. So that's why, that's kind of my first experience of somebody that was really good finding a who. And so I was able to do the book, and then I'm in the building that I am now. I bought this building, and then I eventually opened my practice, and I'll stop there and see if you have any other questions for me before we move on.
So what happened, though, is very interesting. So you still have your background as a periodontist specialty, but that's not where your focus is. Are you still doing that, or is that just something you have sitting aside and your focus is now on investing in real estate?
Yeah, I'm practicing part-time. I practice 3 days a week.
Right.
So to back up a little bit, Dave Ramsey was, I'm sure most people have heard of him. This was like 20 years ago. He was really instrumental in helping us during that trying time, because he laid down the foundation with his 7 baby steps of, how to get out of debt, how to kind of start investing a little bit. And I used his program, his 7 baby steps, for the first 10 years. And I just thought, hey, I'm going to do what all the other dentists do. They work until they're, like 70. They invest in a 401k, and you live happily ever after. Okay.
Exactly.
But when I hit 40, we went snow skiing. And that's when I had a skiing accident.
Yeah.
Fell, hurt my hand, and that is literally why we're talking today, because that was the turning point. Because my kids were small at that time, and I said, you know what? If I can't use my hands, I'm screwed. Right? It's kind of hard to work on somebody without hands.
No, because that's the key area you need to work on patience, right?
Hmm.
Both hands, or
And
was it one hand?
I hurt my right hand. And I'm right-handed, so
Right.
when I fell, it hurt more in my wrist. Luckily, it wasn't anything permanent, but that got me thinking: what would happen if I can't work and provide for my family? I didn't know what to do, and that's 99% of the doctors and dentists. They have one income stream.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? I have to take this into my own hands. So I started
Exactly.
really studying wealthy people and just YouTube videos, books, interviewing people. And literally I could condense everything that I learned in about 6 months into about 3 sentences.
Right.
Number one, wealthy people, when you're around like really, really wealthy people, I'm talking, hundreds, they're worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And you say, you're sitting next to them in first class and on airplanes. What do you do for a living? They don't say, I am dot, dot, dot. I am a doctor. I am a dentist. I am an attorney. They say, I own. I own businesses.
Yeah.
I own real estate.
Yeah.
I didn't own anything. Okay.
Yeah.
The majority of them had real estate in their portfolio. At that time, I had none. And
Yeah.
here's the kicker for me. Most of them had anywhere from 7 to 10 streams of income, whereas I had one.
Yeah.
So that really helped me narrow my focus to, okay, I've got to learn how to invest in real estate to get multiple income streams.
Yeah.
And that's how this journey started.
Yeah. And so if I look at your bio, you say, here are the 5 steps working through these initial insecurities, including, and then you start with doing research. So
Mm-hmm.
that when you said, okay, you're going to go in that direction, because if you want to go into, let me give you just a little bit of background on me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an entrepreneur. I have my own businesses. I have a mid-sized company. We employ over 400 people. I have one silo that is lumber manufacturing. I have another silo that is warehousing, logistics, and distribution. And then another silo that is real estate, residential, not too much, but we develop subdivisions, commercial and industrial. So those are my 3 income streams, and I built that all from the ground up, and I'm the sole owner of those companies, and started the lumber business 50 years ago. And so I'm well established, and then I think I'm very good in the lumber side, and then we are the largest warehousing company in northern British Columbia, and probably also one of the largest real estate companies, both residential, industrial, and commercial.
Nice. So you're a wealthy person, and there you go. That just solves it, right? I mean, that proves it right there that you own real estate.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But the key with real estate, and that's why I like you on our show, because you started from the beginning and said, okay, that I like that. I like real estate. And the key is then, how do you get it started? How do you begin in acquiring properties that have value? Hopefully, it's the return on investment is very important, but it's even more important to me is return on investment and on initial investment, so that I buy something that is an opportunity, and then from there on in see an opportunity to make it more attractive and then have the property pay for itself, plus generate a profit, plus develop equity in the property as we go forward.
Yeah, well, back then I knew nothing, so I just was learning on my own. But if I were
Right.
to do it over, I would do it much differently.
Okay.
I would mirror it like when I went to dental school. How did I learn how to be a dentist? I paid somebody to teach me how to do it,
Yeah.
and as you know, that's the cheat code to success. Find somebody
Yeah.
that has what you want or is doing what you want, pay them for coaching or mentorship, and do it. But I didn't do that. And that caused me to make several mistakes too along the way.
It comes back to what you were saying to the book that became important. Do
Mm-hmm.
it, but find somebody that can do it for you, kind of thing.
A who? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
A who? Yeah.
Correct. A who? So who,
I
not
like
how.
that.
So I would find a who that could teach me. But I thought real estate, when I was like, okay, I got to learn how to do real estate, I thought I had to go and learn how to find, I was just thinking a single family home.
Yeah.
I got to find a home, figure out how to put a tenant in there, get the paperwork. That was my mentality because that's all I knew back then.
Yeah.
So I went to a seminar that a dentist was teaching about real estate in Dallas, thinking that's what I was going to learn. But it really completely changed my direction because he wasn't teaching that. He was teaching about all the other ways you can make money in real estate passively, which is great because our biggest wealth building tool is our income because we spend all the time, energy, and money to be a doctor, if you're an attorney or whatever. And when you start taking your time away from that and trying to look for houses and trying to do this and that, your main income suffers.
Exactly.
And when it suffers, then not only are you wasting time, but you're wasting money because you don't have more money to put in an investment. So I found something
the
called
income stream, right?
yeah, your income stream comes down.
Yeah.
And so luckily I got into what's called a real estate syndication, which is like a partnership or group investments. And that's what I started doing. So I could keep treating patients, making money. And instead of taking money and put it in the stock market, I could take that money, put it into a real estate syndication. But here's the great thing. You start getting a return immediately versus having to wait until you're 60 years old to touch your 401k.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely, I started replacing my income. And I didn't even know all about all the tax benefits and how it can offset income and this and that. I mean, it's just whenever I hear now how wealthy people don't pay much taxes, I understand how they do it now, and it's incredible. So that's I could go a lot more than that, but that's pretty much the gist of it with the real estate part.
Yeah. And so the key then is you found from coming as most people would do, saying if I buy a house, I buy it cheap enough and I get somebody to rent it, then I get positive cash flow unless the interest rate goes too high or other problems occur. And it tends to renting houses, and it can be very troublesome and very time consuming for all kinds of other reasons. So then obviously syndication is something that has done all of that stuff, does it already for a group of people, especially if it is one that focuses on medical doctors or dentists or whatever it is, and you can then do your research and saying, okay, that makes sense. Obviously, they have history. They know all the learning school that you don't have to go through because they already did that. So it kind of then secures your cash, but rather than putting it in other in the stock market, you put it in the syndication, and it gives you virtually a guaranteed return superior to what you otherwise could get.
Yeah, would you like me to draw it out on the whiteboard real quick to show
I
people?
like that. Yeah.
I guess the best analogy that I could give that most people can get, we'll compare this to going on an airplane.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have, make sure that you can see this.
Yeah, can see it.
You have the general partners, the GP.
Yeah.
Those are the people that go out and they do everything. They find the deal, they get the debt, they manage the deal, they handle everything for you.
This is the structure of the syndicate,
The
right?
structure of the syndicate. Yep,
Yeah.
yep. So
Yeah.
as think of them as the pilots on the plane.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you have the doctors or whoever, the passive investors. Those are the limited partners.
Yeah.
So those would be the passengers.
Correct.
And then whenever you go onto a plane, you pay for your ticket. Limited partners, they want to go with the general partners, they pay like a ticket, they put their investment in, and
Yeah.
they come together and they have an LLC. They form an LLC. So you're actually an owner of a piece of the LLC, which then owns the property.
What
And
is
there's
it?
all kinds
Tell us what, I guess, what an LIC stands for.
LLC, limited liability company. So
Okay.
you can either
Yeah.
have a limited liability company or you could have like a limited partnership. There's different
Right.
structures, but the gist of it is
Yeah. Yeah.
you are coming together and you own. So because you own, you get the
A
you get
piece
the
of
cash
that.
flow,
Yeah.
you get the depreciation, which is the tax benefits, and
Yeah.
then you get the appreciation, which the property goes up in value.
Yeah.
And these are typically the ones that we're in. We're in RV parks, we're in mobile home parks. I've also done self storage, short term rentals,
Now,
apartments, but mainly
what happens to your income from the LIC? Is that considered to be taxable income to you, or is it sheltered in some other form?
yeah. So let me give an example.
Okay.
I'm going to erase this. Let's say that somebody, and I'll just use $100,000 to make
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
easy. Okay. Let's say you put 100 grand into an RV park syndication, which we just closed on one not too far from you in Montana near Glacier. I don't know
Yeah.
how far that is from you, but
Not too
probably
far.
south of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So it's projected to be a 5 year hold period. And during that whole period, we're paying a 10% preferred return. Most of the time we pay 8%, but in this one it's 10%. So that means every year you get 10% or $10,000 divided by 12, whatever that is. We basically pay it out quarterly. So
right.
you're getting $2,500 a quarter.
Right.
And then you asked me about the taxes. RV parks and mobile home parks have some of the highest depreciation. So we're able to use that depreciation to offset the passive income. So literally you're not paying any taxes on the money.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm teaching these doctors that are out there, they're making money, they're getting taxed like crazy. You know
Yeah.
about taxes in Canada. You're getting taxed like crazy. But on the side, we're investing our money for literally tax free income. So you look up 10 years later, you got 6 figures of tax free money coming in. And then it takes the stress off of you. So if you hurt yourself or if you get burned out or if you want to do something else, well, you got a little pocket change coming in. So that's the most simplified view I can give of how this process works.
And it is something that works. There are numerous of those
Mm-hmm.
structures, and it's not difficult to find them. You just try to go. How does somebody say, okay, I'm interested in that? So how would they go about finding them? Not a particular one, but the higher the risk, the lower the return, I presume. And so how do you find something that is 10%? Sounds to me a fairly respectable return, especially today.
Most of the ones that we have are we try to target to where the investor doubles their investment over the 5-year period. So let me walk you through that.
Right.
So they invest, and I'm going to use what we normally do. It's 8%. So
Yeah.
they put in $100,000, and we'll say 5 years. They get 8%, which is $8,000 a year, times 5 years. So after 5 years, they've gotten $40,000 of tax deferred passive income. Okay, we sell the RV park. They get their $100,000 back, plus they've gotten $40,000, and now because you're an owner of that property, you get a profit split. And then we set it up to where if you're going to double your money, we're projecting that you get about $60,000 in profit. So when you add all this up, so your 100 just turned into $200,000.
Yeah.
And again, if you do it right, you're not paying taxes on this. There's nowhere else, well, in America, unless you just know somebody, you can't get that kind of return.
No.
And and I'm trying to educate people, and there's a lot of syndications out there, but there's very few that are good. And my job starting off was to try to find the best ones, and then come to find out, kind of like my dad said, son, you want something done right, what do? Do it yourself. So I hooked up with a real estate attorney. We started a company, and now we own 24 RV parks.
Yeah. So it has become very successful, Jeff. So and so then you have set up and you have a name of a company, right? That is called Debt Free Doctor. Is that
so Debt Free Doctor is the education platform where I'm just educating people.
Right.
And if people want to invest, then we have a separate group called the Blue Metric Group, and that's the group, the holding company of the. So you can actually go to debtfreedoctor.com, and there's a little icon at the top that says Invest Now. And if they want to see our portfolio, they could do that. But I'm not selling anything. All we're doing is educating, because this isn't for everybody,
No. And so what I find so interesting is, and like to share that with you, is that, I'm nearly 84, but
and
I'm still
look great. Like in your, I mean, when you said 84, I'm like, holy cow, that's amazing. You look amazing.
I just did a book. It came out here 2 days ago, and the book is this one.
Can you send me a copy? How do I buy it?
No, I'm going to send you copies of
awesome.
This one, Living Young, Dying Old. It's a picture of me.
I see that. You got some guns.
I'm the oldest competitive bodybuilder in North America, and
wow.
so and underneath it says how to thrive in your mid-80s, because I'm getting so pissed off with all this talk about 81 is too old and 79 is not too old, whatever, right? So I said, no, age is just a number.
Yeah.
It's look at the quality of life. Stay fit, stay healthy, all the elements. There is no particular secrets about it. So I wrote a book about that is this one. And then I wrote a number of other books. The first one that I did, Against All Odds. And, another one that I did, I'm going to quickly show you. You find this interesting. I Am ADHD. I wrote a book about that. And
I can tell you got books all over the place.
Yeah, it took me 50 years to find out that I was ADHD. What I find so amazing is that, that 5, 6 years, 7 years ago. I've been always fairly involved in computers and all of that sort of thing, more so than a lot of other friends that I have in my age group. They don't even have emails, some of them. But if you don't, then you're just not in the today's world. And then I was doing some interaction, on internet, interacting with groups, and then started a form of podcasting well before COVID, and more on a local, regional basis.
Mm-hmm.
And then COVID came, and we couldn't do that anymore here because of COVID wouldn't allow us into the television studios. And then we said, well, I had an apartment downtown Prince George here. Why not? We'll do our own studio. And so we developed the studio and then started podcasting again, initially local, regionally, and then thought, maybe I have to set up a podcasting studio in Vancouver to get the circle. We have lots of interesting people here, make the circle of people larger. And then the more we thought about it, the more we see with CNN, ABC, and all these other major television stations, they have virtual with 1, 2, 3, 4 different people on it sometimes from all over the world, and saying, that's the way to do it. And so we have been doing that now for a couple of years. We are very active on it. You are my podcast 283, I think, where I am I'm the host, and then I'm guest on probably another 150 or so. And I love it, and it is amazing. There, you and me are sitting here and having an interesting, very interesting discussion. And at the same time, we already know that this will be seen around the world, and it probably has tens of thousands of people that will be watching our podcast. Immensely powerful, and it's only starting, it's only beginning, and all topics that to me are so interesting. Hence, your ideas about how to remain debt-free, and the ideas surrounding that, that we can share with the world. And then the other part of it is that it is so powerful that looking at how do you get, in a general sense, how do we create platforms that draw on the world where there are billions and millions of people that are either speaking English or understand English, interact. I'm thinking Europe in a lot of cases, but a lot of the world, English is a very popular language, that if that is not the main language, but at least a lot of people, I'm thinking Europe, I was born in Holland, Germany, France, and all the other kind of places, all understand likely English. But an amazing platform to think in terms of ideas that you can share, but also beyond that, create platforms that have a lot of potential. May it be in regards to how do you manage money and understanding how it works and make it work, or in other cases, social networks or whatever else there is. And for me, with this book that just came out here a couple of days ago, it will become popular all over the world, because the issues that I'm raising in there is that longevity and quality of life, and how there's so many confusing areas about it, that to make it simpler and to be an example for others, and saying, that's what I do, and I'm not a doc, obviously, and I'm not professing to be one. I'm simply talking about what I do and what works for me and potentially could work for others. But I can now share it with the world for all intents and purposes, just because of the internet and podcasting.
Yeah, and I think it's amazing for both of us, especially you, because we grew up in a time And I know, especially you, no internet, no cell phones, no nothing. And when we had to get information, when I wrote a term paper in high school, I had to go to the library and go through index cards and then go find the book and all that, or encyclopedia. These freaking kids now, my kids, I got teenagers, they got the world in their,
No.
in their hand, and they don't understand how powerful that is. And you and I understand because we came from a time where that was never possible. I mean,
No.
if you growing up in Germany or Holland when you were 15 years old, if somebody would have told you, "Hey, John, in 30 or 40 years, you're going to be able to have you can talk to somebody instantly from anywhere," and you would like, "What in the world? You from Mars? What are you talking about?" And it's just
Inconceivable.
inconceivable. And this is a whole totally different topic. We can have another podcast about it. But
Yeah.
the people talk about manifesting stuff, and I was always against that. But I always heard the billionaires and all these people, they're always talking about meditation and manifesting. Like, what in the world are they talking about? And so then I just started learning about it, just learning about it. And,
Right.
there's YouTube videos and the physics that I used to learn, which I never got in college, but it started to click. Like, just like this. I mean, think about the waves that are going over the internet that we can't see that are allowing us to talk. So we have these
Exactly.
waves around us, and I started practicing, and it works. And I'm trying to teach these kids this. I'm like, you we have this inbred negativity in us because back then when we were coming up, it's all about survival. You're always looking for the tiger jumping out from you. So everything's negative. That's why most of your thoughts are negative.
Exactly.
Why can't I have more money? Why can't I have a better car? Why can't I have a
Exactly.
better job? Why can't I lose weight? And
Exactly.
but once I learned that we're all giving off these waves, just like, light waves and energy waves. And it's just, I'm not going to get into it, but it's just amazing once you learn this, and it's so fascinating. And I'm a man of God. I pray and that too, but it all just kind of comes together. And I encourage people just to learn about it and
Exactly.
think about it because it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, so in my case, Jeff, I was born in 1940 in northeastern Holland, and I had a brother and a sister that were 1 and 2 years older than me. My mom and dad were married in 1938, and so they were in love, and very quickly had a son and then a daughter, and then I was born next in November the 1st, 1940. And then what happened is then a dictator invaded Holland. And May of 1940, Adolf Hitler, they overran Holland. And my dad already was called into the Dutch army in April of 1940. And the last they heard of him was they were seen in Rotterdam before they bombed the whole center of Rotterdam, and thousands of people died. For the next 5 years, my mom was alone with her 3 kids. And I still can remember that the Allied forces were bombing from 1943, summer 1943 forward. They were bombing the military infrastructure in Germany, and where we were in northeastern Holland. I still can hear the sounds even now, 70, 80 years later, the sound of hundreds of bombers overhead. And my mom, you would take us out, and we would be standing on a flat roof outside, seeing all the bombers, and not because they were so pretty, but she was afraid inside, and as long as we were outside, we were not as afraid. And in the distance we could see, think again, northeastern Holland, we could, the cities, by the North Sea part where it touches on Germany, like Wilhelmshaven, Kiel, Hamburg. In the distance, we could see the sky being red. And then the winter of 1944-45 was the coldest winter on record, and there was no more food. They had cut off all the food to Holland, and we used to go with gunny sacks every morning, the three of us, the three kids, into the railroad yard, pick up anything edible and burnable. And the reason that we did, they wouldn't shoot us. They would just boot us one, and we'd be back the following day. And I still can remember the feeling of hunger even now. And then, as I said, it was the coldest winter on record. I can still feel the cold. And then we were liberated by the Canadian Army, April the 12th, 1945. And it made such an impression on me that I always knew I would go to the lands of my heroes, Canada. And so I wanted to do that when I was 17, was drafted into the Dutch Air Force, and then did go to Canada in July of 1965. And with one suitcase, 3 books, 2 sets of clothes, and then I had a dream. I was not successful academically. I failed grade 3, and I failed grade 7 3 times. So when I was 13, they said, "What are we going to do with this guy?" Well, maybe send him to a mentally challenged school, but my parents said, "No, we're not going to do that." But maybe teach him a trade. So I always liked lumber, so they sent me to a furniture factory at 13, and I became a furniture maker. And I loved lumber, and so then. But kids are hard on each other. All the friends that I had would go to college, university, and I became a laborer. I'm proud of that today, but then, and at that time it was looked down on. But I kind of wanted to show me that I was just as smart as the other people, and so that's why I left with, my dream was to go to Canada, and particularly Western Canada. That's where all the timber is, because I wanted to build a lumber mill. Came to Vancouver, went to couldn't speak the language, didn't know soul, didn't have any family here. Went to the immigration department, and fortunately there was a German fellow, I could speak some German, and I told him what I wanted to do. He said, "Go to Prince George, that's where you have to go. It's a boom town, they're building lumber mills." And so I did that, 12, 14 hours in the bus. I could still see the bus station here 60 years ago. And I came off the bus, I had my suitcase, my 3 books, 2 sets of clothes, and I counted my money at least 3 times. I had exactly $25.47. But what I had lots of is attitude, is that I've always believed, no matter what, that if it is a tough day today, tomorrow will be better. And I already did that when I was a kid, I still do that today. Passion, whatever I do, I give it 125%. And then work ethic, I work harder even now than anybody. And so I get up at 5:30 in the morning, I always make my bed, and I always think I'm late. And so that's kind of what I do. But with ADHD, it took me 50 years from the time I was 13 till the time I was 62 that I found a book written by Dr. Halliwell. We've written 18 books, Dr. Halliwell, ADHD, dyslexic, so am I, and extremely successful, known globally. And so I read his book. I picked up a book that he wrote in 1997, still have it. He wrote it in 1993. And when I found that book, I said, I wrote in it in Dutch, now I finally know who I am. And then I looked at it and find out more and more about it. And then the more I found out about it, then the more I found out it's a superpower. And there are so many people that are struggling with it. Then I felt, I speak about it frequently. I wrote this book about it for that reason, is that, now today, a lot of people say to me, there you have all these companies. I've got about 10 different companies, and then do a lot of podcasting, do a lot of writing, do a lot of speaking, do a lot of stuff. And you say, how do you do it all? I say, ADHD, that's how. So it gives you just a bit of my background as to...
That's amazing.
But I found interesting about you in particular is that, growing up in a family setting where things were good and okay, but they were not, the extra was not there. It was always be careful. That's what I grew up in. In the post-war years, things were difficult and troubling in our particular case. And, but then for me, that I had to, it didn't come natural for the same reasons as it did with you. You grew up in a small community, that's where your family was and your friends were, and you were hoping to go back there. For me, it was not common but it was common in our area. If somebody moved 50 kilometers or miles outside of a town where we had all our family, then he'd say, oh my God, can you believe it? He went all the way. Oh my God, we'll never see him again. He's only gone 50 kilometers, my God. So to go from there with a suitcase and with nothing and not getting to speak the language and have no idea what, I had to do that. I had to do that for me, to show not anybody, but just me, that I could do it starting with nothing. And that was important to me.
I want to come up and see your operation in Vancouver someday. I want you to show me around. I like that.
So what I'm going to do, Jeff, I'm going to send you copies of all 4 books that I have here. I'll sign them for you. And then yes. Scott has your address, and so...
That's amazing.
Anything else coming to mind? And I think a lot of people, looking at money is a mystery for a lot of people. What can you do with it, or what other opportunities are there? And for you, you fairly rapidly, when again looking at your bio, when you started making decision to go into real estate, very rapidly you lost $50,000, and so you had to say, oh my goodness, no, I can't do this. I have to go into a new direction. And then obviously what happened, you connected to some good points that then led you to the information that you required in terms of changing the model that you were following. And this one, obviously you've been very, very successful in it.
Yeah, and just like you in your journey with the $25.47, what I find for success is you have to have a strong enough why to do it. That why do so many people fail at their goals? They start January 1st, I'm going to lose 40 pounds, and after 1 month, they don't have a strong enough why. You moved from Germany, Holland to Canada. There was no going back. That was your why. There's no plan B. So for me,
no plan B.
there was, I don't care how many times I failed, I was gonna figure it out.
Or in a box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to, if you're gonna do this journey, you have to have a strong enough why. Or okay, it don't matter what happens. If I fail, I'm gonna fail. I'm gonna do it. And most people don't. Great book Simon Sinek wrote, Start with Why. That's a great book. And also Gary Keller's book, The One Thing. Having that one thing that you're focused on. We're pulled in all these different directions, but it's like, okay, come over here, or check this email, or do this or do that. But is that guiding me to my one thing that I'm supposed to be focused on?
See, I wrote this one here, Against All Odds. It's not about hurrah, hurrah, how successful John is. That's not what it is about. It is about all the other things, going through all the ups and downs and staying the course. I will never, never, never give up, and stay the course. Do not and give it all that you got. And and all the basic underlying fundamentals are important. You don't have to be ruthless to be successful and all those things
Right.
that some people think. That's not so. What I grew up with is that giving back to community to me is very, very important. And I've always done that, even when I didn't have, and that does not require money, but being involved in the community, very important. And very important for the individual, but also for the community. And then being aware of things that are in the community, and then with all the experience and a lot of it challenges, sharing that with other people. But I do every here November the 11th is Liberation Day, Remembrance Day, and I always speak to at least 4 different schools. I've done that for well over 10 years. With why do we have the 2 minutes of silence? What does it mean? And how lucky are we here, in a lot of cases, that we take, thinking that if there is war, then as soon as war is over, everything goes back to normal. Well, simply is not that case. In fact, it's the other way. And that's why it is so important to be aware of it and appreciate all the things, the family and all the other things that we take for granted a lot of times, appreciate it. A lot of times I do probably like what you do. I do a lot of business in the United States and fly around a lot and commercial. I'm also a pilot, but commercial flying. And when I sit at the window and fly over the United States and North America, and I look out the window, I say, it's paradise. It is paradise. How lucky we are, right? Compared to looking at Eastern Europe, looking at the Ukraine, Middle East, and some of the other places, right?
That's true. Sky's the limit.
It is. Dr. Jeff, I very much appreciated our conversation. And for all those people watching us from around the world and having interesting guests like Dr. Jeff Anzalone and myself having the discussion about money, but also about a lot of other things. Subscribe to, it gives us encouragement. Subscribe to our podcasting, Dr. Jeff as well. Share it with others, like it, and make comments. And, again, Jeff, it was a privilege to have you on my show. I will make sure we send you the books, and then let's try to get in touch and get to meet each other,
Absolutely. Listening to your journey and your story, it's amazing. So hats off to you. I just hope I can walk when I'm 84, much less like what you're doing. So you're unbelievable. So I'm looking forward to reading that one as soon as you send it. So
I will do that.
Thanks, honored to be on your podcast. Thank you.
Thank you very much.